prominent Lamar Jackson hater just attacked him in one of the worst ways that we've seen.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome in to the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. Appreciate everybody for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day. And thank you to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. We have 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage and content here for you on Locked On Ravens. And we have a jam-packed episode on this bonus edition of the show. Nick Wright, he attacked Lamar Jackson in one of the worst ways that we have seen, and it went beyond the football field. So we'll talk about that. We'll also dive into a concerning Ravens injury popping up on the report ahead of Sunday's game against the Patriots. And finally, we'll talk about some Ravens and Patriots notes heading into that prime time battle. I want to tell everyone today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, I'm still trying to put together my thoughts on this whole situation, but long story short, Nick Wright, who has long hated on Lamar Jackson, this is nothing new for Nick Wright. He was on First Things First, and they were asking a question because, they talk about the Ravens a lot on there, and they've been a prominent team for a while. So, of course, Lamar and the Ravens, they're going to be a big topic of conversation, but they were essentially talking about how concerning the whole Lamar Jackson missing practice with the flu was. This thing came out on Thursday. So they talked about this on Thursday, and Nick Wright really just unhinged, went off. And to me, this was the worst attack on Lamar Jackson that we have seen from a prominent member in the media, because even though a lot of Ravens fans do not agree with what Nick Wright says about the Ravens and Lamar, and a lot of Ravens fans do not like Nick Wright, he is a prominent member of the media, and it is what it is there. So Nick Wright, and hold on to your hats for this one because it's a long thing, and there are actually multiple parts over multiple days that this happened. Nick Wright said, quote, "Lamar can't get sick and miss practice every single year. He's the most important person in that franchise. He's an adult. He's a professional athlete, and he's the only franchise star starting quarterback in this league that every single year he can't manage to figure out how to not get the seasonal flu and miss his practice. That's a problem. And it is, to me, in line with a lot of pieces of Lamar's relationship with his team, health history, all of it, are one of, as far as franchise quarterbacks in this league, he's the only franchise quarterback in this league. The team seems to have no line on his week-to-week, day-to-day health status." I know it sounds ridiculous to bang on a guy for getting sick. Nick Wright talked about how he believes he and John Harbaugh have a weird relationship, but then he said, quote, "He's the only franchise quarterback that any given day might be barking back at critics on social media." There's a lot of stuff about this stage, Lamar Jackson, that flags is odd given his stature in the league, his stature with his team, and how good of a player he is. I think there are a lot of signs of immaturity with Lamar Jackson within the game. Doesn't face much adversity, but when he does, I think we see some. And then he said, quote, "I think the way he uses social media speaks to immaturity," and then talked about, again, how the relationship with him and John Harbaugh, Nick Wright believes, is weird. And he said, quote, "Him being damn near 30 and not figuring out how not to get sick when your job demands you be at your best every winter speaks to immaturity. You hold your face of the franchise star player to a high standard, and I don't think that's unfair." Wow. I'm still again, it's my job to come on here, talk about the Ravens, speak words, and I am speechless about this. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And I do truly, in my heart of hearts, believe this is the worst attack on Lamar Jackson we have ever seen over the course of Lamar's life from a prominent media member, because this transcends the football field, right? This now is attacking character. It's attacking Lamar Jackson as a person, not Lamar Jackson, the football player. All those narratives, and I'm not saying these are only coming from Nick Wright, but all these narratives about Lamar, he can't all the ridiculous narratives, he can't throw, or the outside, you got to get him outside the pocket. He's not a good pocket passer, can't throw outside the numbers. I mean, I could go on and on about the football narratives that have been spread about Lamar Jackson. that are not, and some of them just have not been true at all, by the way. A lot of them, honestly, have been not true. But that at least is like, okay, as a football player, you think he can't do that well. You think he can't do that other thing well. Like, okay, whatever. You're not right, but okay, fine. Like everybody had. This is more so just like an attack on him. And it is unbelievable, some of the stuff that's said here. And, Nick said literally like, oh, it feels like it's kind of weird to bang on a guy for being sick. And he said, I know it sounds ridiculous. Well, yeah, because it is. Like, why are we blaming? Yeah, I get it. Lamar gets sick a lot. It's the thing. He gets sick every winter. I get it. But it's not like Lamar missed like 2 weeks of practice with this sickness or whatnot. And by the way, this is the breaking news here. Lamar Jackson is not the only NFL player to get sick, by the way. And the Ravens have a flu thing going around right now. John Harbaugh said, John Jenkins, he was somebody who had those symptoms. But hey, guess what? CeeDee Lamb missed 2 days of practice this week with an illness. So we talking about CeeDee Lamb? I know CeeDee probably doesn't get sick as much as Lamar does because, yes, Lamar gets sick a lot. But, like, so what? Like, so what if Lamar gets sick a lot? Like, who cares? Everybody gets sick. Some people more than others. And Lamar Jackson just happens to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Okay. Okay. We don't have to turn this into, Lamar Jackson is all of a sudden immature for getting sick. Where's the correlation in that? It just feels like an attack that is not based in anything. And again, it's one thing to talk about Lamar as a football player. It's another to just go out there and start saying things like he's an adult and he's immature and, he's damn near 30. Like all that stuff. Like when someone says stuff like that, it turns into an attack. It is an attack. And, I think Nick might be hurt from the times Lamar has barked at him on social media because Nick Wright has been saying crazy stuff about Lamar for a while now. And why should the players have to stay silent about it all the time? Like, I credit Lamar Jackson for saying, hey, check in people and doing it like, okay, yeah, right. And like, it's not like he goes on and looks at every single thing and responds to every single thing. But also, like, Lamar's not the only player to use social media. Lamar's not the only player to bounce back at critics. I mean, heck, Micah Parsons tweeted at me last year and responded to a tweet I had about him. And I wasn't on there. I didn't come on here and say, oh, Micah Parsons, Like, I'm like, okay, cool. This is what Micah Parsons had to say. Let's talk about it. And like, why is Lamar Jackson the one being criticized? And that's what I've said all along with Lamar Jackson is things that Lamar Jackson does that other people do. Only Lamar Jackson, he's the one that is going to take blame for it while everybody else gets away with it because, there are other quarterbacks that use social media and there are other players that respond to criticism. This is not just a Lamar Jackson thing. And again, like, Nick Wright also, it feels like he's speaking on stuff that, like, look, I don't think a lot of people know the dynamic between Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, but it's a lot of assumptions here that like, oh, well, the Ravens seem to have no linemen week to week and day-to-day health status. I don't know that for a fact. Nobody really does for a fact, but Nick's kind of putting that in the air. John Harbaugh and Lamar might have a weird relationship right now. I don't know. I mean, they generally have had a good one, but I don't know the situation right now. But Nick Wright is essentially putting that into the air. And like he started comparing it to like, what if we had to miss time or like, them on the set had to miss time is for like a job of like, oh, we had to miss 4 days or 2 weeks or whatever. And I'm like, hey, guess what? Lamar missed 1 day. He missed 1 day of practice this time around with this thing. And it happens a lot. Okay, fine. But when other guys are injury prone, because again, I'll chalk it up to just guys being injury prone too, right? Like, okay, guy's injury prone. And all of a sudden, do you start attacking a guy's character? Like Lamar Jackson, you cannot like him as a football player, and I don't know why you wouldn't. I mean, I get maybe for like a fan of a rival team or, maybe something like along those lines. I literally can't come up with a lot of reasons for it, but okay, whatever. You're missing out on greatness. That's on you. But if you're just like saying, yeah, I don't like Lamar as a person, I mean, what has Lamar ever done? Like, he's very polite, very respectful, and there have been multiple countless times showing him giving back to his communities and being there for the youth and being, again, I come back to the word respectful. And this from Nick Wright is just attacking like everything about Lamar Jackson, calling him immature and, saying that things flag is odd for him. Like, what's the point of this conversation? The point is probably to get clicks, which again, like, when you say stuff like that and then expect the players to be all buddy with you on social media and not clap back at it sometimes. I don't know what your expectation is there, but that's, when you start attacking someone's character, that's when all bets start to become off there. So Lamar hasn't responded to this, at least at the time of this recording. I don't know if he will or not, but I was very taken aback by what Nick Wright said here. And you can kind of tell, like, the panel was kind of like, whoa, because Chris Broussard was kind of like, what's your conclusion out of all of this? Like, not really knowing where this was going. And I just, it's tough. And then the next day, actually, he said even more about Lamar Jackson. So yesterday on Friday. So coming up, we'll talk about that and continuing and what Nick Wright had to say and just the ridiculous notion of, the Lamar Jackson hate that he gets still on a pretty regular basis. Stay tuned. Plenty coming up on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Gametime. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Gametime app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Gametime, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. Pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print. The seat view feature, it's a game changer. You literally see what the pitch looks like from your exact seat before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets in every match, concert, or event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off Gametime. Moving along on this bonus edition of Locked On Ravens here on Saturday. Kevin Oestreicher still talking with you here the day before the Ravens and the Patriots face off on Sunday Night Football. Again, appreciate everybody for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We have 5 days a week plus more for you here on Locked On Ravens. So hit that like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along and subscribe in audio form as well. Same show, both audio and video. We have the regular show Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. We have these bonus episodes on the weekend when there are headlines. We have pre-game episodes. We have watch-alongs during the games, which we will have that tomorrow at 8:20 p.m. Eastern time, as well as the instant reaction show after the game and the Locked On Ravens squad show with myself, Sam Njoku, and former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail. Also, if you're not part of the Everydayer Club, if you want to support the show more, get some add-on content, stuff that I just don't have time to do on the show anymore, unfortunately, just with everything that we have to talk about on a daily basis. If you're interested in that, you get all exclusive text access with me. If you want to be a part of the all access group, the exclusive access to the Locked On Discord and a bunch of other stuff, ad-free episodes. So if you want to check out the tiers in that to see what you get, the link's in the description down below, or you can go to the URL over on the Locked On website. So let's dive into continuing this great Nick Wright conversation about what Nick Wright has been disrespecting Lamar Jackson. I personally think Nick crossed the line with this whole thing, especially what he said on Thursday. Now, on Friday, it was more of football conversation because it was relating to Drake Maye and Lamar Jackson, because that was the conversation about, just those two players and the big Patriots matchup coming up. But Nick Wright said that he thinks moving forward, he said, quote, I'd probably just trust Drake Maye more than Lamar Jackson. I think there are some concerning signs for Lamar. The best football from him, he's not going to quite reach that height again. And I think he's going to deal with a coaching change this offseason, a coordinator change this offseason. The fact that Lamar seems to have stopped utilizing his legs as such a dynamic weapon not only makes him easier to defend and less of an impactful runner, but I think it's impacted his passing. I need to see how Drake plays in a postseason game in a big spot. That's not like a positive check for Lamar in his postseason play. I think Drake Maye is right now, this moment for this season, the better player. I don't know what direction Lamar Jackson is going to be going. Like, based off of what Thursday's comments were, this is like, oh, yay, Nick's being respectful, but he's not. He's still being disrespectful here. But at least this is more on the football side of things instead of just attacking a guy's character like he did with Lamar on Thursday there. I mean, again, like, I don't know what we're talking about here. I think Drake Maye is a heck of a quarterback. I think he's going to be one of the faces of this league for a really long time, and I think he's shown that this season. But how quick are we to discredit everything that Lamar Jackson has done in this league. And even though he's had a weird year this year with the injuries and some of the poor stretch, I mean, he had that poor stretch for like a month, right? Like, sure, he only threw the ball 12 times against the Bengals, but that was due to game flow. And this to me is a lot of it's box score watching, one, and it's recency bias too. And this is what have you done for me now lately, league? Like Lamar was lighting the world on fire, the league on fire in his first couple weeks. And actually they pulled up that graphic on First Things First, where Lamar's first 5 games, he had a 72.9 completion percentage, 250.6 total yards, 9.1 yards per pass, 15-2 touchdown to turnover ratio, 136.7 passer rating. Then in the last 6 games, he had 56.4 completion percentage, 215 total yards, 7.3 yards per pass, 5-7 turnover ratio, and 74.7 passer rating. So I get it. Like he hasn't played up to the superstar Lamar Jackson standard here. But I mean, it feels like we're so quick to praise other quarterbacks. I'm not talking about Drake Maye in this situation, but like Joe Burrow, for example, who I think is, again, one of the faces of this league. I think he's an exceptional player, but, you know, Joe's missed a lot of time due to injuries. And if you want to go back to Nick Wright's comments on Thursday, like, where's the comments attacking Joe Burrow's character? You can't figure out a way to get healthy. And I don't believe any of that stuff. Like, again, I don't blame anybody for getting injured. I don't blame anybody for, you know, getting sick. That's just life, man. Like, and that's football too. Like, it is what it is. But, you know, it seems like after a tough stretch, for all the stuff that he's done, feels like Lamar Jackson is the only quarterback in the league that can't have a bad game or a bad stretch, because then we'll just get torn apart like this. And again, like, how much value do we really place on opinions like this or on, you know, things? I mean, the Ravens don't place any value on it. They are very much like, hey, we're sticking with what's inside the organization. That's what we're doing. We don't care about the outside noise. Partially because the outside noise is so ridiculous with this here. It's so ridiculous where Drake Maye has played less than 2 full seasons in the NFL. Lamar Jackson, like Nick Wright said, is near 30 with 2 MVPs. You could argue it'd be more than that. I would argue that, but he has 2 MVPs. He has had historic seasons, 41 touchdowns compared to 4 interceptions. You know, he is absolutely electric. Lamar has changed the game. And I think he's just finally starting to feel a little bit like Lamar Jackson again. We could be sitting here at the end of that Week 18 game against Pittsburgh and, you know, Baltimore makes the playoffs, let's just say, off that game. And Lamar has delivered his 3 best performances of the season, and I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked because, you know, while Lamar has had good games this year, I don't think that we've seen a lot of peak Lamar Jackson this year. And a lot of that is because of the injuries, but it feels like Lamar doesn't get that. Like, oh, hey, his O-line's playing terribly. And I think that got more national attention after the Steelers game, but feels like it all just kind of got swept under the rug there. And Lamar's just not held to the same standard as everybody else, and everybody wants to play it both sides with Lamar, where they want to put him in tiers of quarterbacks with players that are so obviously below him, but they also want to talk about him like he is the best quarterback in the league and put that pressure and expectation on him and talk about him in that way where, you know, you can't have it both ways, where he has the expectations of the best quarterback in the league, but you don't think he's better than, you know, X, Y, and Z quarterback, and you're putting him in like tier 2, whatever tier you're putting him in. Like you can't have it both ways here. And so, you know, I don't believe, and look, we know that Nick Wright is a Chiefs guy and a Mahomes guy, and like I understand that, but I have a real problem with the way that he approached this. Again, like if he wants to feel that way about Drake Maye versus Lamar Jackson, then okay. I think he's wrong. A lot of people do. His panel also was pretty shocked again, it looked like, but okay, that's his opinion. But when you take it the step of attacking someone's character, calling them immature and saying there are things that like just look off to you and putting all the stuff out in the air and attacking a guy for getting sick, I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Just utterly ridiculous, in my opinion. We'll talk a little bit about the Ravens injury stuff here before we head into our final segment, where Baltimore did have a concerning injury pop up on the report on Friday, as Kyle Hamilton, who had not been on the report with an injury all week, he was limited with an ankle injury, and so he is now listed as questionable for this week against New England on Sunday night. So usually when something like this happens, it means a couple of different things. Either one, he might have felt something over the course of the week, and the Ravens just wanted to keep it cautious with him, or two, and I think that most people are assuming it's two, Hamilton got injured during Friday's practice potentially, or maybe on a day earlier in the week, and the Ravens, maybe he got injured and then missed the rest of practice, albeit making his snaps limited. And in terms of Kyle Hamilton and what people are saying there, Jonas Schaefer of the Baltimore Banner noticed that Hamilton was limping around the locker room after practice, and now he's questionable with that ankle injury. So I'm curious. Look, this is Kyle Hamilton we're talking about. If there was like a FanDuel prop for a player most likely to play through an injury, Kyle Hamilton would probably be my number one guy. I mean, he would probably have the best odds. Oh, I'd be smashing that button on FanDuel if that were the case. So I mean, he's a dog. We've seen him play through injuries. I mean, it seems like at times he's been down for the count, and all of a sudden he'll just come in a couple plays later. Like, wait a second, weren't you just like writhing in pain on the ground? And so he's a dog. I mean, he will fight through a lot, and he needs to in this one. Like, obviously, if he is truly injured and not feeling good and he doesn't have to play, then again, that's okay. It's not great for the Ravens, but I'm not forcing anybody to go out there. At the end of the day, though, we know what this defense looks like without Kyle Hamilton. He is the glue that holds it together with what he can do on all three levels of that defense. And after already losing Teddy Buchanan, not having Nnamdi Madubuike, they need Kyle out there. But the Ravens weren't the only ones with a injury to pop up on the report on Friday, which is concerning. It's Christian Barmore, the Patriots defensive lineman. He did not practice at all on Friday with a knee injury. And so Barmore was limited full, then did not participate. And I am curious to see whether Barmore plays in this one, because they need him, especially after losing Milton Williams. There are a couple of other key Patriots defenders who were listed as questionable, including Carlton Davis, Marcus Jones, and Harold Landry, although Marcus Jones apparently has said he is going to play in this game. He's a big guy both on defense and on special teams for them. Robert Spillane, he is going to be out in this game, which is a big loss for them defensively, although they've been playing without him. They played without him last week against Buffalo. So plenty of storylines in this one coming up. We'll be diving into those, talking about that Ravens-Patriots game and a lot more. Stay tuned. Plenty coming up on Locked On Ravens. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. Lock in your lineup and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. PrizePicks is adding an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive. You can choose from a huge range of unique stats: fantasy score, field goals attempted, free throws made, turnovers, whatever fits your strategy. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDON NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDON NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Continuing on, Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Saturday bonus edition of the show. Thank you so much for all of your support. If you have a friend or a family member who likes the Ravens or wants daily Ravens coverage, wants to keep up with the team on a daily basis, be sure to send them over our way here on Locked On Ravens. We'll have them covered just like we have you covered here on the show. Also, you can follow me on social media, KaleStrucker34, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, the whole 9 yards. All right, let's get a little bit more into this Ravens and Patriots matchup. And again, we'll have our full game preview episode tomorrow. We'll have the watch along, the instant reaction show, the squad show. So a lot of coverage coming our way on this game. But to me, the big thing with the Ravens is with the way the Patriots run defense has played recently, and we're going to get into this a lot more tomorrow, and we've gotten into a lot of it over the course of the week already. There's a stat put out there that the Patriots defense is now 30th in rush EPA per play and 31st in rush success rate since Milton Williams got injured in week 11. And if you caught our Crossover Thursday episode with Nick Cattles of Locked On Patriots, Nick said that Milton Williams has been the second best player on the Patriots this season, and he is essentially the Drake Maye of their defense, and he is not going to be available to play in this one. He can't return until week 17. So Baltimore, they rank 3rd in rush EPA per play and 18th in rush success rate this season. And for Baltimore, they, in terms of yards per attempt, they're still the top rushing offense in the league there. They're third in the league in yards, just total yards on the rushing side of things, but they're 12th in attempts. And some of that has been they've been playing behind in certain games and they're throwing the ball more. Others, it's just been they've been abandoning it for some reason. But, the Ravens have never finished below 10th in carries in the Lamar Jackson era. So at least since he took over as a starter in 2019. So I think that has to be key number one here, especially if Christian Barmore can't play and some of these other key defensive players for New England. You can get that run game going early and make sure that you're ripping off chunk plays there. Like we've talked about, the play action game is going to be very, very effective in this one for Baltimore. So that's where I'm starting. I also would love to see some guys outside of Zay Flowers step up in this receiving room. And I'm looking at guys like Rashod Bateman, who's had a tough season. Mark Andrews has scored touchdowns this year, but, I'd love it if Mark were to step up. Isaiah, somebody that had shown a little bit of flashes over the last handful of weeks with some of his catches, but he's a guy, he's looking for a new deal. And, with the Andrews extension looking less and less likely it will be in Baltimore, but he's a guy that I'm sure would love to step up and make some big catches here against the Patriots defense. So those are some of the guys. Lamar's talked a lot about getting D-Hop more involved. John Harbaugh's talked about D-Hop a lot. So I don't really anticipate them getting D-Hop very much more involved, but maybe a target or two more. Maybe he's able to make catches with those. And he has been a very clutch player for them. Feels like when the ball's thrown his way, he comes down with it. So I'd love to see D-Hop get more involved in this offense. And then defensively, obviously, consistent pass rush here. The Patriots going to be without Will Campbell, their star rookie tackle, so they have to take advantage of that. And then limiting the explosive plays. We know Drake May and Travion Henderson both can be very explosive, and the Ravens' run defense, the defense has really stepped up and been really, really good over the, last handful of weeks here. And I want to see more consistency out of that unit and out of that group. And actually, I said on the Everydayer Q&A, we had our second ever one. And again, if you're interested in the whole Everydayer stuff, be sure to check out the link in the description down below. But I kind of talked about how limiting explosive plays is going to be one of the big keys in this game. And I think that if Baltimore wants to go on a deep playoff run, well, I think them being battle tested against the Patriots, the Packers, and the Steelers to round out their season, that would be really big for them. And, when the Ravens have won their Super Bowls in the past, they haven't been like that number one seed. Oh, they're the team that everybody wants to beat. When they have been that team in the Lamar Jackson era, it hasn't gone their way, 2019 and 2023. So I think that this game is a huge opportunity, especially because you have to win this game for multiple different reasons. If the Ravens lose this game and the Steelers win, if the Steelers win against the Browns, the Steelers are in the playoffs. It doesn't matter if the Ravens win or lose against Green Bay. So you need to, and it doesn't even matter if the Ravens beat the Steelers in week 18. You have all the playoff simulators and, however all that stuff works. If the Ravens lose to the Patriots and the Steelers beat the Lions, it does not matter if the Ravens lose to the Packers or beat the Packers. If the Steelers beat the Browns, doesn't matter. They get in the playoffs that way. So the Steelers have a lot less to lose than the Ravens do over these next 2 weeks, because I think almost any scenario, even if the Ravens win both their games in week 16 and week 17, and the Steelers lose both their games in week 16 and week 17, even if that happens, the Ravens and Steelers would still be playing for the division in week 18. So you have to take care of your business and set up that winner take all in week 18. And if you do it by beating two really good teams, that's a really good sign for you, hopefully, to get you a little more battle tested before that big game. But that's all I have here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. On the way out, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along and subscribe in audio form for 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to have our pregame episode, and then we'll have the watch along at 8:20 for Sunday Night Football. We'll have the instant reaction show and the squad show after that. So tons of Ravens content and coverage. Stay tuned. I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.